Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to crochet a top-down men's pullover. The yarn that I'm working with is Mary Maxim Natural Alpaca, and this yarn was provided to me by Mary Maxim, and I'll be working with the raw cotton color today. This yarn is a worsted weight number 4, and it's a blend of acrylic and alpaca yarn. You will need 2 hook sizes for this pattern, so I'm going to be working with a 4mm as well as a 4.5mm crochet hook, and these are streamline hooks from Furls Crochet, and they have lots of different colors to choose from. This one here is the Capricorn, and this color here is the Supernova. This pattern is worked from the top down, and we'll be starting with that collar. Now you can have a little bit of flexibility here with the width of your collar. If you wanted to even make it a turtleneck, you could do that by simply chaining out more chains. So your chains are going to be the width of the collar. So for the size that I'm working on, I did a fairly small collar. For my husband's sweater that's a bit larger, I went a bit thicker on the band. I felt it could have been a little bit smaller, so I decided to go smaller on my son's so that it wasn't quite as big. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. My husband's, I did 10. So looking at those pictures, you can kind of see maybe you want to go in between and go with 8. If you wanted to do a turtleneck, you would want to go double if it's going to be folded over. So if you wanted the turtleneck, let's say, this amount, you would need to do double that to get it to fold over. So really you can play around if you want to change up the pattern to suit the person you're making it for. So it's really simple. We're just going to start out with a chain. So I want a total of 6 stitches, so I'm going to chain out 7. And I'm using the 4mm hook to get started with the collar. So now I'm going to work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. Okay, so you have 6 stitches. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And now you're going to work through the back loop only of the stitch and work single crochets. So a really simple ribbed stitch band or collar. So just alter your starting chain to change this up for the width that you want. So we just chain 1 and turn and continue working single crochets in the back loop. So all of our sizes start the same way, okay? So they're all going to be a total of 100 rows. So that's how many rows you need to make for your collar. Even though there's different sizes, that our head sizes do not change significantly with our weight size. So you don't want to have a really big collar even if you are making this for a bigger size person. You're still going to want to go with a similar size. Okay, so I'm going to work up those 100 rows and then we're going to meet up for the next step. So I haven't stretched it out. I haven't done anything. I've just left it like this. And when I measure it across, I'm getting about 21 inches. So that will be what will be going around your neck. Okay, so now let's fold it together. So this will be your collar. It goes around your neck. So if you need to make any changes, it would be at this point, and you would have to add stitches. You would have to go to the pattern and add your stitches accordingly between the sections. When we're doing a top-down design, it has 4 sections. So we have a section for our front, our back, and our 2 sleeves. So you may have to add stitches, and then that's going to change the outcome of the pattern. That's why it's good to not mess around with this. You could make it, let's say if you wanted this a bit bigger, you could use a bigger hook without changing the stitch count. You could, if you want it smaller, you could use a smaller hook so you don't change the stitch count. But it can get confusing with the rest of the pattern. You don't want to be rewriting everything. So I suggest going with what I have and just maybe changing hook size to kind of play around with that size. So I'm going to chain 1. I've got my right sides facing. I'm going to go through the back loop, going across and slip stitching this to join. So we're slip stitching per stitch, but I'm going through just the back loop on this side and then going through that starting chain. Chain 1. Now what I like to do is flip that to the inside. So the seam is to the inside of our collar. And then we're going to work around. And you can change over even to your larger hook at this point. We don't want those stitches being worked around too tight. So the 4.5 hook. So again, we can look at these ridges. So it will help you, again, eyeball how you're going to do the stitches, because we want 1 stitch per row. So here's this ridge right here. That's 2 rows. So 1, 2, the next one. And what I always find with single crochet in the back loop only like this, one of your rows, you're sort of going to be going through this bigger kind of section of stitch, and then there's just this little loop that you come to next. Work through that for the next stitch, and that's going to really keep you on track. So we're going through the bigger section, and then we're back to that little loop. Okay, so that will keep you on track. You want to work around 100 stitches. Okay, so I've worked all the way around and I have 100 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch in the first single crochet to join. And now I'm going to make my first V-stitch. So I'm going to chain 3 and work a double crochet into the same space. So my chain 2 will count as a double, the third chain will count as the chain 1, and then a double crochet. So that is the first V stitch. So now I'm going to start my first sleeve. So I'm going to work double crochets in the next 16 stitches. And this begins the same for all sizes. How we get this pattern larger is we continue working in rounds. So everything begins the same. So I'm going to work across 16 stitches in double crochet. So I've worked across 16. Now I'm going to do another V-stitch, and this will separate the next section. So I'm going to work a double crochet, a chain 1, and a double crochet. Now I'm going to work across my next section, which will be our front, and that will be 32 stitches. So I'm going to work across 32 double crochet stitches. Okay, so I've worked across 32. Now I'm going to work a V in the next stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Now I need to make another sleeve, which again is 16 stitches. So I'll work across 16, double crochet. Okay, I've worked across 16. I'm going to work another V, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the same stitch. And now I'm going to finish working across double crochets, and you should have 32. If you don't, retrace your steps to make sure that you have 32 so your fronts and backs equal. Okay, so we're going to slip stitch now. I've worked across 32. I'm slip stitching into that starting V to join. I'm going to chain 3, work a double crochet in the same space, creating another V stitch. So now I'm going to work a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And now I'm going to start establishing my cable pattern. So I'm going to do a front post double in the next 2. 1, 2. I'm going to work a double crochet in the next 2. In the next 2, so these 2 account for our doubles, and then the next 2 we want to do front post doubles. The next 2 doubles. Okay, we're going to do that all the way across to our V stitch. Okay, so you should be ending with 2 doubles, and that last double's in that double crochet of the V from the previous round. Now, if you need to add a stitch marker to your V's so you don't miss them or you don't mess up, you can always do that. Here's my V stitch, so I'm going to do another V. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So now when we get working, you've always got to make sure you're getting your first stitch into that double crochet of the V, or it's going to throw your pattern off. So we're going to do a double crochet in the next 2, and then front post doubles in the next 2. Okay, so the repeat's going to be our 2 front post doubles and then 2 doubles. And you're going to repeat that across to the next V. Okay, so I've worked across to the next V stitch. So always a V stitch in the V stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And I'm going to continue around just in this same manner. So we're working a double crochet in the next 2. And then 2 front post doubles in the next 2. Double crochet in each of the next 2. Okay, so I'm going to continue this around. Here's my next V stitch. I'll work another V. I'm going to continue that and I'll meet you back up at the join. Okay, so once you're coming to the end, it appears here we only have 1 stitch remaining, but we still need to add 2 double crochet. So you're going to add a double crochet into that stitch. And then you need to do another double crochet in the slip stitch, okay? And you're gonna have to do this for every round or you're gonna lose stitches. So don't forget that. You always need to add your final stitch into the slip stitch. Now I'm going to slip stitch to join again. And it's always a good idea not to do that slip stitch too tight because you are always having to work into it. Now we'll chain 3, work a double crochet. So this pattern is going to alternate rows of doing the front post doubles and a crossover. And we also have to factor in that we're increasing. So we need to continue adding posts into this pattern, because at each V section, this is where we get that increase, because our double crochets increase it each time. So we're going to have to bring in our pattern as we work. So this pattern looks far more complicated than it is. Once you sort of get the groove of how it works, it won't be as complicated as you think. But let's just keep working at it here and I'll show you what I mean. So first off, we need to double crochet across, and don't miss that first double crochet. Now we're going to cross these stitches to kind of give it that little mini cable look. I'm going to yarn over, I'm going to skip this front post double crochet and I'm going to work into the next one. Then I'm going to go back and work a front post double crochet into the skipped one. So that's going to give us a cross. Now I have 2 double crochets in between. Then I'm going to cross the next one. So skip one, front post double crochet into the next, front post double crochet back into the skipped. Double crochet in the next 2. We're going to do a cross. I speed this up just to get over to that next V. Okay, so we've got double crochets in between. Every time you come to these posts, we're going to cross them. So skip one, front post double crochet, front post double crochet back into the skipped. Okay, so now we're going to work across 1, 2, which is we had 2 the last round, but now we have 1 extra stitch because of the V, so you should have 3. Okay, and now we're working another V. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Okay, so as you can see, this spacing is getting bigger at the V stitches, and when we work the next section here, you'll see that. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 double crochets, and then we're going to cross these ones. So skip one, front post double, back into the skipped. Okay, and we're just going to continue like that all the way around. So at every V, you're doing your V stitch and you're crossing all of those front posts. So I'm going to work that all the way around again, and then we'll meet back up and I'll show you how the next round's going to work. Okay, so I'm coming around. I've already done the cable. Now I'm going to double crochet in the next, double crochet in the next, and we have to do the last double crochet in that slip stitch. Okay, and then we're going to slip stitch in our starting V to join, chain 3, okay, and a double crochet. So now we have 4 stitches here. We can actually start doing more post stitches again because we have enough to continue with the pattern. So what we're going to do is a front post in the next 2, double crochet in the next 2, and then we need to pull the little cables apart here to do a front post double crochet in the next 2. Double crochet in the next 2. Front post double crochet in the next 2. Okay, and work across. I'm going to meet you up over here. Okay, so I'm coming up to the doubles before the V. So we're going to work 1, 2, and then you can see we have 2 here that we can do more front posts again. So as we increase, as we can continue with our pattern alternating our front posts and our 2 doubles, we can keep adding in, and that's how, as we increase, we can keep these post stitches, those cables going, so it's consistent down the entire sweater and down the entire sleeves. So I've done 2 doubles, so now we'll do front post, and then I need to work a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the V. Okay, and then we need to do 2 front post doubles, and then 2 double crochets, two front post double crochets. Okay, so we're just going to repeat now. All the way around in this manner. Okay, so I've worked all the way around, so I'm going to show you how to finish this off. We're going to work a double in the next 2, and then a front post. And your next front post will go into the chain because that chain is just like a double crochet, okay? And now we'll slip stitch to join, chain 3, double crochet in the same space. So I hope this is starting to make sense now. Another thing I want to mention is this is going to curl up. This is completely normal. It's with these cable stitches, it's going to make it curl. When we finish the sweater with the band, it's going to help that, and also blocking is going to help all of this curl. But it is normal as you work that you're going to get this curling effect. So now we're going to double crochet. Okay, so there's just going to be 1 double crochet before we get to the next 2 posts. We're going to yarn over, skipping the first post, and we're crossing them again. And then we're back into our pattern where we'll have 2 doubles, crossing this over again, so alternating rows of working them front post and then skipping and working a front post. So that's sort of how this pattern, and then as we increase, we have to account for the different stitch counts and the stuff going on over at the corners. But other than that, the pattern stays the same. And once you get the hang of how we're bringing in the post stitches and continuing with the pattern, it will be easy to keep increasing as big as you need to go. So I'm coming up to the next V, and I just wanted to cover this with you as well. So we're going to work a double crochet and then a V. So one double crochet, and then cross these over. Double crochet in the next two and cross them over. Okay, so we're going to continue around in this manner. I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, I've worked all the way around. We have to end that double crochet in the slip stitch. Slip stitch to join, chain 3, double crochet in the same space. Okay, so now we'll have double crochet in the next two, and front post doubles, in the next two, double in the next two, front post doubles in the next two. So this one's pretty straightforward. We're going to get over to our next V. You're going to have 2 double crochets before you do your next V stitch. So I'm just going to continue working this all the way around, and then I'll meet you back up for the next round. Okay, so I've worked around, and I'm ending with a double crochet in the last stitch and a double crochet in the slip stitch. Going to slip stitch to join, and always remember, keep that nice and loose. 1, 2, 3, and a double crochet. Okay, so you'll notice we still don't have enough doubles to start into another set of posts, so we're just going to work across 1, 2, 3 doubles. So really at this point, it's just a repeat of what I've shown you. We're going to cross over these stitches, work a double in the next two, do a crossover, and when we get here, we're going to have 1, 2, 3 double crochets, another V, 3 double crochets, and then when we get around to the next round, we can start adding in the front post doubles again. So we would do our V, do 2 front post doubles, 2 doubles, and 2 front post doubles. So just repeating what I've already shown you for bringing in the new posts as we increase. So every time we're doing a V stitch, we're increasing. We're adding an extra double crochet on this side, an extra double crochet on this side for every corner. So that's increasing 8 stitches every round. So you are going to want to follow along with your pattern. You can try this on as you go to get the right sizing. You can go by the sizing that I have in the pattern. Look at the finished measurements to see what will properly fit depending on how much ease that you would like the sweater to have. If you want it to be fitted, if you want it to be oversized, you can play around with your size based on that. And this is really easy to try on as you go. You want that this here is big enough for your arm, and this section with your front and the back is big enough to go around your chest. We will have some chains under the arm that will give us a little bit more movement, but overall you can try it on as you go. So I'm going to keep working, increasing it to the size needed for my son. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to estimate sort of the size he needs, but try it on as we go to see if he's going to need a small or a medium size, whatever fit he prefers. So I'm going to continue working that now off camera, and I'll meet you up when I'm ready to join it. Okay, so I've been working away on my sweater off camera, and I have a total of 20 rounds for the medium size. So I've slip stitched, and now what I'm going to do is chain 4. Just had grabbed the wrong size hook. So we're going to chain 4. And I'm going to skip over the sleeve. And I need to find our next V-stitch. Here it is. And then I'm going to fasten that off. Okay, so that's going to set up the body. Now I'm going to go skipping over the neck section, go to the next V. Okay, so 1 slip stitch to join this here, and then I want to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Skipping over the other sleeve, and we're going to join in the next V. Okay, and I'm going to fasten that off. So now if you look at it, we've made our armholes, and then, so here's the other arm, and then we have our body section. Okay, so you're gonna want to find your seam, and we're going to join over at this underarm. So let's make a slip knot, put that on the hook. And you're going to skip the first chain working into the second chain. Chain 2 and work a double crochet in the chain. So there's 1, 2, 3. So there'll be 1 chain to finish with. Now we're going to work a double crochet in the first stitch, and then you come to your post. So we're going to continue with our pattern. So I'm going to skip the first post, work a front post double crochet in the next, and then a front post double crochet in the skipped. A double crochet in each of the next 2, skip the next post, a front post double crochet in the next, and a front post back into the next. So continue with the pattern. I'll meet you up over at your next chain 4. So as we're coming, I've done my crossover posts, and there should be 1 double crochet before you work through the 4 chains under the arm. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a double crochet and cross over the post stitches. Okay, and then just continue working around. Okay, so I've worked around and we need to add one more double crochet in that chain. And now we're going to slip stitch in the top of the first double crochet to join. Chain 1. So now what we want to do is get into our post pattern again. So the next 2 stitches we want to do front post double crochet first and the next, and then we're going to double crochet in the next 2, and then a front post double crochet in the next 2. Double crochet in the next 2, and a front post double crochet in the next 2. Okay, so we're going to go all the way around now in the pattern, and as you get to this section here, you'll have a double crochet, and then you'll do the 2 posts and a double, and then you'll be back to these posts. So we're just going to continue working in the pattern all the way around. And at this point, we won't be doing, once this round's complete, we're not going to be doing anything else that will be confusing. All we're going to be doing is working in the pattern, alternating. One round will be working the front post double crochets, and then the next round will be crossing them over again. Just continuing like we've already been doing to give us that little tiny twisted cable. So now whether you're making it for yourself or for someone else, you just want to make it the length that it needs to go. Because heights will vary and torsos will vary from person to person, you can try the sweater on as you go. If you're making it for someone else or even for yourself, you could take a sweater that you like the length of and just make this one as long as you need to line it up with a sweater that you know is going to fit well. Now I am going to finish the band a little bit thicker than the collar that I've done here. We only did 6 stitches. I'm going to do the bottom 10 stitches so that it's a little bit wider. So even if you figure an additional 2 inches roughly for that, that bottom band that you're going to add on, but I'm going to keep working away now on this until I get it the length that I need it, and then I will meet you up again to show you how to do that bottom band. Okay, so I've been working away on the sweater, and this sweater you can really just make it as long as you want, try on as you go. So I'm making this one for my son. So we've tried it. He's got a long torso and I want to make sure that it's a good length for him. So I've worked a total of 38 rows in total for this body section. Can also measure that for you just so you have an idea. So we're looking at around 14 and a half inches from the underarm. And now what we're going to do is add the join as you go ribbed band. So I'm going to continue working around with the 4.5 millimeter hook, and I'm going to work single crochets in every stitch around to get set up for the band. So I'll work that around and then I'll meet you back up again. Okay, so I've worked all the way around 152 stitches. I'm going to slip stitch to join. And I'm going to change over to the 4mm crochet hook. So here's a 4mm here. And I want the band to be wider than I did the collar. So here's the collar, but I'm gonna go with 10 stitches. So I'm going to chain out 11. And we'll work a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And in each chain across so that we have 10 stitches. So our stitch count will stay at 10 all the way around. I always suggest you count them because it seems with ribbing it is easy to lose track of a stitch. Okay, so once we get all the way down, you should have 10. And let's look at this. This can get confusing for people. I've slip stitched into this stitch right here already, okay? So this stitch counts for this row. I'm now going to slip stitch into the next two. You want to make sure that when you're slip stitching, you're not slip stitching into that same one that you've already slip stitched into. Okay, so now I've slip stitched into two. I'm going to turn my work. And now you need to crochet 2 more rows to account for those 2 stitches. So you will have the same number of rows as your stitch count. So 152 rows is what we're making. Now, if you look, you can see your slip stitches right here. They'll be tiny. And then we're skipping them, working a single crochet in the back loop of each stitch across. Okay, and this is where if you count, you know you'll be working into the correct stitches and you won't be messing up. We want the ribbing tight so that it does pull the sweater in a little bit around the waist or the hips, depending on where it comes on your body. If you want to make this for a female, if you wanted to do it shorter, do a cropped version, you could go shorter and then this would pull in nice at the waist. I'm gonna chain 1 now and turn. And we're going to work back down. Okay, so this is the second row. Okay, so once we get back down, I want you to look again and see which stitch was slip stitched into, okay? So you've got to make sure that you don't work into that same stitch. You want to slip stitch into the next 2. And then we're just repeating this process all the way around, okay? So you're going to work all the way. We have an even number of stitches, so you're going to end with only 1 final stitch to slip stitch into. Then you'll crochet back up, so you're going to be ending up at the top. So I'm going to work, that takes a little bit of time to do all that ribbing around. I'm going to work that up off camera and then we'll meet back up again. So here is the bottom band, and when you get all the way around the cuff and the bottom of the sweater, we're going to slip stitch them together the same way. So I'm going to show you for both. I've already fastened this off, but that's okay. So you could take a needle, your yarn needle, and just sew it. So if I were to seam it this way, the seam would be on the outside. So I'm going to just fold it so that the right sides are facing and seam so that it goes to the inside of the sweater. Okay, and you're going to do this with the sleeve as well. You want the seam to the inside. pull that through and chain one just to get set up here, and then I will slip stitch through each stitch just to get this joined up. So whether you're working on the cuff or the bottom band here, you're going to do it the same way. And once you get all the way, you can fasten it off. This is what it's going to look like. You can just weave this tail into the inside of your work. So we'll be working the sleeves, both of the sleeves the same. I want you to go to the underarm and the 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, hang on. These are the 4 right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we're going to do is let's get a slip knot on the hook. I want my join for the sleeve also to be here. So we want the post stitches to be the first stitches, so our join sort of gets hidden right in here. So let's join in. Okay, I'm going to chain 1, and we're just going to join right in with how these stitches go. So we've got our 2 post stitches. Let's skip the first, do a front post in the next, front post back into the skipped stitch. Okay, and now what we want here now is our 2 double crochets in between, but you can see that we've got a little bit, it almost looks like we have 3 stitches. We actually don't, but that's sort of how it looks. So what we're going to do is make sure that we kind of pull this so that we don't have any gapping. So what I'm going to do is a decrease right here. I'm going to go into this little space right here. This is just a little tip to get you making that look better, and then a double crochet. If you do a double and a double and you're ending up with a hole, that's okay. You can always use your tail just to weave it in, but that's just a little trick to make that look a little bit better. We're going to skip the next post. Okay, and do our crossover. So double crochet in the next 2. Skip the next post, we'll do a front post on the next post, yarn over, front post on the skipped. Okay, so I'm going to work that all the way around. Okay, so I'm almost all the way around. I have done this crossover, and you can see we're coming to this sort of big section again. So I'm going to do that double crochet decrease. Kind of just getting a spot there to do it. And then a double crochet in the last, and then I need to slip stitch in that starting front post double to join, chain 1, and then we can just keep working around in this established pattern now. So super easy. We've got front post double in the next 2, And then we've got our double crochet in the next two, and we keep going. So this is at 60 stitches. So now what I'm going to do with this sleeve, I do want some decreases. You could make the sleeve keeping it at this amount, and if you want more that sort of puffier sleeve look, you could just bring it in at the end with your band, or I'm going to show you how to do some decreases. But I'd like to crochet up about 6 rounds in total before I start doing any of the decreases. So this would be my second round. So I want to do a total of 6 before I jump into any decreasing. And then what I'm going to do for the decreasing is I'm going to end up making it so instead of having 2 stitches between our cables, our little cables, I'm going to only have 1. So we'll end up doing a gradual decrease, bringing it down so that these all just come a little bit closer together and the sleeve is a little bit narrowed out. So I'm going to go ahead and work those 6 rounds in total off camera, and then I'm going to meet you up and show you how to do the decreases. Okay, so I've worked those 6 rounds, and I just put a stitch marker on my first just so I could stay on track. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to slip stitch to join. And you could always do a few more rounds if you didn't want to start decreasing this soon, if you wanted the upper part of the arm to stay a little bit bigger or longer, that would be okay as well. So I'm going to chain 1. I am going to skip and do a front post double crochet in the next, front post double crochet in the skip stitch. And then the double crochets are where we're going to be doing those decreases. So yarn over, go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. And we're decreasing that together. Now we're going to continue around in our pattern as normal. Okay, so we'll continue around as normal, and then we'll decrease the last 2 stitches as well. So this round will decrease by 2 stitches in total. So we'll only have 1 double crochet between here and then 1 double crochet in between here. So I'm going to work all the way around. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. We're coming to the last 2 double crochets. So we're going to do another decrease, yarn over, go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3, and slip stitch to join. Chain 1. And now the next 2 rounds, we're just going to work as normal. So now you're only having the 1 double crochet on either side here. And the next 2 rounds, you're not going to do any decreases. You're just going to keep working around. And now how the pattern will go is every 3rd round, we're going to do a decrease, but we need to move throughout the arm to decrease it down. So the first time we did these 2. So the next time we do a decrease, we're going to decrease these 2 together and these 2 together. So the 3rd round, we'll do that decrease, then we'll do 2 rounds without any decreases, and then we'll move to the next 2 double crochets, and then these 2 double crochets, and we're just going to move in that manner, continuing to decrease until we basically don't have any 2 double crochets between the posts to decrease. So we want to get to the point where we have 1 double crochet between all of the posts. So just continue with that decrease pattern. I'm not going to work through it all with you. I just want to explain how it's done. So every time you do a decrease, you'll then do 2 rounds with no decreases, and then you'll decrease again. Keep doing that until you only have 1 double crochet between each of the post stitches. Then you basically will just continue with the sleeve as long as you want. Try it on as you go, depending on who you're making it for. The sleeve length may be different. So for my son, I'm going to make this sleeve longer than I would make it for myself because he has longer arms. But once you get through those decreases, you're going to have an opportunity to do some more rounds to kind of add whatever length you need. Then once you get it to the length you want, we're just going to do a join as you go cuff to finish it off. So I'm going to continue working away on my sleeves now off camera, and then I will meet you up to show you how to do the cuff. Okay, so I'm just finishing working around, and I have done a total of 46 rounds for the sleeve. Now you can adjust this however you need to, make it longer or shorter. But for my son, this is a good length for him. So we'll slip stitch to join, chain 1, and now I am going to work single crochets around, but I'm only going to do it into the post stitches. So we're skipping this double crochet stitch. Now that does make a pretty tight cuff. So as you can see here, it's going to pull it in quite a bit. If you don't want it this tight, you could always work into those double crochet stitches. So the first 2, and then I'm skipping the next and doing a single crochet in the next 2. Skip the next, single crochet in the next 2. Okay, so I'm going to work that all the way around. Okay, so we're skipping the last stitch. We're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet to join. We're going to change over to the smaller hook. And now we're going to do the join as you go cuff. So I'm going to chain 11. Single crochet in the second chain from the hook and in each chain across. Okay, so once you get all the way down, we're going to skip the first stitch, and you can see the slip stitch is right there. Going to slip stitch into the next 2. Oops. Going to turn. We're going to skip the slip stitches and work single crochets in the back loop only. So this is just like the bottom band that we've already worked. Both of our sleeves are done the exact same way. Chain 1 and turn, and continue to work back down. Okay, and when you get down here, you can see here we have slip stitched into this stitch, so we need to slip stitch into the next 2. Okay, and we're just going to repeat our rows back and forth until you get all the way around. So once you have your sweater complete, you can block it to finish it off. So fill your sink with some lukewarm water and a little bit of soak wash or wool wash. Let that soak for around 30 minutes. Then you can take it out, squeeze out your excess water, roll it in a towel. Just make sure not to overstretch. And then you're gonna just wanna lay it out on some towels or some blocking mats. And you can just lay it out to the measurements. You don't have to pin it or anything. Just make sure it's stretched out and roughly the measurements you want it. It's gonna allow the yarn just to relax and block it out to how it should look. Alternatively, you could steam block it as well, just to save on time. It will take a little bit to dry this out if you fully wet the garment. So if you're maybe in a little bit more of a rush, you could also steam block that as well. Just be careful with the steam that you don't melt any stitches. This is a blend with acrylic and alpaca, so you just want to be careful if you are steaming that you don't melt any of the yarn. So just be cautious of that. You don't want to hold the steamer too close to your piece. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below this video. You'll find everything you need to get started on your own pullover. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.